I see iPhone 3. I'm going to guess that's David.
Yeah, I had a hard time getting on for some reason.
That's all right. You're here. I got you marked as present. So I think we can get the ball rolling if you guys are all ready.
Absolutely, John.
Don, you're a VP if you want to call the meeting to order.
All right, good evening, everybody. This is the fiscal year 2025 budget meeting for the Villages of River Ridge. Going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Today is October 3rd, 2024. Call it to order at 6:06 p.m.
All right. So, I forgot this. Too far. All right. Proof of notice. I sent out a mailer to all the residents 14 days in advance in accordance with Florida Statute 72303. It included a draft agenda and budget. I had emailed out a copy of the last meeting minutes. So if you guys want to read them, you may. If you want to make a motion to waive the reading, that is fine. David, I will leave that up to you as you're the secretary.
I read everything. We can waive the report.
I second it.
All right. I will add that. Who was seconding? Was that you, Jeff?
Smitty.
Oh, you got your audio working. Great.
Finally.
I will add that the meeting minutes from the last meeting are on the website and can be downloaded at any time. Treasurer's report. Don, did you want to present the treasurer's report?
What did you want to present? Was that from this
You
year?
could read the paragraph in the email I sent you like a couple hours ago. It's basically what's on screen.
Now, let me make it bigger here. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. All right. So the financial summary as of August 31st, 2024, the monthly August income was $5,361.92. The monthly August expenses were $11,474.35. The income year to date was $69,261.77. Total expenditures as of August 31st, 2024 were $65,306.18 with a positive variance of $3,955.59. Our operating account balance as of August 31st, 2024 $396.22. Reserve account balance as of August 31st, 2024 of $50,185.97 with a total cash position of $104,582.19.
Someone make a motion to accept the treasurer's right? Don, you can't motion to accept your own report.
I always try. You think I'd learn?
I make a motion. This is Smitty. I'll make a motion that we accept the report.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All right. You guys do not have any committees, so we're going to skip that. Old business. I just wanted to give a little blurb for those watching. Association Villages of River Ridge has a new website. It is available at villages@riverridge.org. There is an ongoing cost, which I have on the screen. This was as discussed at our last meeting. That will be $315 a year plus for the service, plus $25 a month for the monthly statutory maintenance, we'll say. Anyone of any members who wish to register for the site can do so by visiting the site and clicking the register in the upper right-hand corner. I did want to say, and I don't actually throw a slide for this, so I will just switch this real quick. Let's see if I can do this. close it? I hope I didn't close it. Nope, there it is. Okay. This is the lovely new website. One of the things that we've noticed with the upcoming the statutory requirements is that it is now incumbent upon all associations to ensure that members are provided copies of their documents. It is no longer a member's responsibility to obtain them or somebody else's, or it is not the member's responsibility to request them. It is now the association's responsibility to provide them. So what we have done for the villages is I have reached out to our member associations and have offered at no cost to them to host their docs. So the smaller associations that are under 100 members are not required per Florida statute to have a website. So, for example, Edgewater at River Ridge, they have a page on here where their governing documents are now listed. So this will keep them in compliance. They will be able to direct their current and future members to this site. Member associations over 100 members should have their own website, in which case we will cross-link to them. I am not aware of what the Rosewood or Sablewood websites are, if they even have them. If they do, they are welcome to reach out to me, and I'm happy to cross-link. Otherwise, it would be something as similar to the River Ridge Country Club, which, as you can see, is right there. The other Deer Ridge, I did reach out to your property manager and I did not get a response. We are willing to host your documents on our site. However, somebody needs to send them to me. So if somebody from Deer Ridge is listening in, you are welcome to have your property manager reach out to me and I will update that for you. All right, back to the PowerPoint.
You guys did a good job on this, John. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it.
Yeah. So so that I believe was all I had for old business, unless anybody else had any questions about the website. And then I think we can move on. It's not. New business. Obviously, the main reason why we're all here is to vote on the budget. I did do a slide for the budget. These are the proposed budget as of our most recent discussions. This is in keeping with the dues at $85 annually, as was discussed. So I don't know if you guys want to go over it, if you had any questions, but basically this is what it is.
This is Smitty or Philip Smith. I'm still questioning the budget as far as what we're planning for the future. And I still wonder if our monthlies are in line and if we need to go up. So I'd like some discussion on that, if that's appropriate.
I know Rod was very adamant about not increasing the dues.
I know he was. Yeah.
And I don't know and nobody else really seemed to have an opinion one way or the other. So, yeah, Smitty, you guys have any questions or thoughts?
I know a couple of us talked about it in the on the emails. A couple of us did talk about possibly raising it to $90, bringing it up $5 annually. At the risk of sounding or being very unpopular, the price of everything is going up, including the price of doing business and property management. And we just ended up, and John, can I bring this up that we just ended up paying for the storm? Can I bring that up?
Sure. Yeah, that by all means.
We just ended up paying
Amen.
$1,000 for storm cleanup. And that's something that you never know it's going to happen. It comes out of nowhere. And given where we live and everything, My suggestion would be take it up. We're talking $5 a year. $5 a year. I really don't think that's going to break the bank for anybody. And if we bring that up so we can get a little more in the reserve fund or in our funds overall, that way we have them in case we need them. Like I said, nobody likes to pay more for anything, including myself. I'm out there 5-6 days a week working and trying to save money and everything, but $5 additional a year. I can hear myself again.
And I totally agree. This is Smitty again. I think if we don't do it now, in a couple of years, if we keep using up our reserve funds to pay things off, we're going to end up with $20 instead of $5. So if we do it $5 now, we gain some, and we can just go up a little bit at a time instead of all at once.
Exactly.
If I may clarify, you're not technically. All right, somebody's got to mute themselves because I can hear myself. All right. So this, I believe, was closer to an original, was a draft that I had submitted previously. Sorry, it's in Excel. So what you guys don't really, all right, Smitty, that is you. Smitty, can you mute your phone?
Can I do what?
Can you mute your phone when you're not talking?
Oh, thank you. Will do. Done.
Okay, so technically you're not actually using the reserves. What we were discussing was that you guys have a little bit of leftover money from that has accumulated over the years. And the concern was simply that eventually you guys are running a little bit of a deficit, and what we're doing is we're going to be lowering that overage that you have in your account while at the same time increasing the dues. And we're going to do it slowly. At least this was the idea. So that way, instead of you guys staying at 85 for the next 2 or maybe 3 years, and then jumping to $120, $125 where it technically should be. If you were to look at your operating expenses here, which is $103,000, and if you were to divide that number to by 908 members, that's $113.85. So just this operating budget that we're proposing would, if there was no surplus that's accumulated from previous years, your dues would be about $115 a year. So what we're trying to do is, rather than go 85, 85, 85, 115, that is basically what this number over here symbolizes. This number here is what's going to come out of the overage. And as we mentioned in the treasurer's report, you guys have you'll probably, because again, you'll have about a $40,000 to $50,000 surplus at the end of the year. So this is going to potentially use 20,000 of that. So that's basically what we're talking about here. You'll still have that other 30,000 to play with for next year, but it's basically going to be a question of how quickly do you want to use those funds up, and then, but eventually they're going to be gone because they need to be used, and then that's really going to be the question. And yet that, while not technically a reserve account, it's like a reserve. It's just that it's not a reserve as in it's not technically classified as a reserve from a statutory standpoint. So reserves can only be used for capital expenses. So that would be if somebody were to, when we have a storm and they knock a tree down and it blocks a road, if somebody were to crash into the monument sign, those types, types of things are capital expenses. And those are the types of things that we can use the reserves for. But outside of that, you don't really have them to use. So that's why instead of using those reserves, the actual reserves, we're going to use this, I guess you could say, carryover balance from the previous years. So that was kind of the thought pattern behind that. But yeah, I will let you guys decide. It's really going to come down to the budget is what the budget is. So it's really going to come down to what you guys as a board want to do and what you think is in the best interest of the association. So
Can
I
I
will let
say
you
something
guys.
to David?
Yes, sir.
So in Rosewood, I pay $148 quarterly for dues, right? Which is a lot of money, right? Insurances went up. Cost of everything's going skyrocketing through the roof right now. I know $5 is $5, but it's still $5. And so every association has a due. We have a due. I don't think we should raise it right now. I think it's the way we're doing economy is right now. It's hard for people to afford insurance. Insurances went up. I don't think it's a good idea, but that's only my opinion. If we only had one due, like we only had to pay River Ridge, but every association has to pay different dues, quarterly or yearly. I just don't think it's a good idea to raise anything right now, not the way the world is today.
Hey, David, this is Don, and I completely understand what you're saying, but the screen that John has up right there, well, did have up right there.
Sorry.
Everything of that we're paying is going up as well. Remember the villages of River Ridge, we have insurance we have to pay, and that's all of us together. The bank charges, the legal fees, everything's going up, unfortunately. And I agree with Smitty in that I'd rather pay an extra $5 a year now and $5 a year next year than wait 3 or 4 years and then suddenly I'm paying $115, because that's something people aren't going to be able to swallow. If the pill's smaller at $5 a year right now, they can swallow that easier than going up to $115. And again, I appreciate your opinion. I don't want to have to pay any more either. My opinion is I think we have to. So I mean, if we take it to a vote, I mean that's how I vote. But I do appreciate your opinion and understand your position.
John, I had a question.
Yes, sir.
In one of the previous slides, you showed in there that our reserves for this was, or the balance in the account was around $50,000.
Yes.
Looking at the spreadsheet, says our general reserve is 15,000.
No, that's going to be the contribution for next year.
Okay, so we're adding another $15,000 into that $50,000 reserve.
Yes.
And out of that reserve, we can pay the major, the capital expenses. Again, like you said, when the sign got ran into or trees collapsed or something like that, which is not part of our normal monthly expenses. Theoretically, we have $65,000 to take care of things that are going to come up, whether it's an emergency type or whatever, without touching any of the other expenses in here. I don't personally see where a $5 increase across the board, how much $5 increase for all of the associations together adds how much more into is it going to go into our reserve account or is it going to go into the normal operating account?
So the reserve contribution is 15,000. So basically, what's going to happen would be here. Let me go back to it real quick. That'll be easier. So your operating account balance is this amount right here, the 54.
Right.
So basically, the way the budget is, whether it's 85 or 90. So you're going to basically be running for next year, 2025, either a $20,000 or a $26,000 deficit. So if you see right here, this prior, for lack of a better term, this amount right here is basically a budget deficit that you're going to be running. this budget deficit is going to be covered by this amount right here. Okay? So in theory,
I guess I'm mixed up that if we have a carryover, that's a positive dollar amount, correct?
it is,
Okay, so then
but
how can
you
that be
really
it?
shouldn't have a carryover because your revenues should match your expenses. But back during the early parts of the development of the association, when the dues were $100 a year, they weren't actually spending all of that. So that is where, so that's kind of where this built up. This was actually, and that was why they reduced the dues from 100 to 85 2 years ago. And then the board kept it for 85 for another year. And we do still have a bit of a surplus, I guess you could say. So either way, whether you go with the 85 or the 90, I think the 90 just lowers this amount by $4,000. So it's basically 21. It basically means that that amount will stay there longer. Because again, you may not have to, if you did 90, you may not have to do maybe 90 for a couple of years and then go up a little bit. My thought pattern when I originally proposed this was simply to slowly increase it and slowly decrease the surplus. But the goal is this amount needs to go away. So the goal is to get rid of that. I mean, we could technically get rid of it all in 1 year. I wouldn't recommend that, but you could technically get rid of that all in 1 year. I mean, if we could lower the dues $10 to $75 for next year, and we could get rid of everything that's in there, but then the next year you're going up to 115. So it's just that's not. Again, it's up to you guys, but I'm just saying my thought pattern was to slowly decrease this number, and I'll go back to the spreadsheet real quick. So my thought was to slowly decrease this number and slowly increase this number. But it is your guys' decision. I know we know how Rod feels. Unfortunately, he's not here, so he doesn't actually get a vote. So we will need a majority vote on this. But I leave it up to you guys to.
Can I add something?
By all means.
The carryover that you have, can we make that a reserve?
Well, you are. That's basically 15 of this is going into the reserve fund. And that's based on covering the signs. Our estimates for really bad hurricane cleanup was about $40,000 to $50,000. So that's why the reserves was originally capped at 50. You guys aren't actually contributing anything to reserves for 2024. So what we're basically going to, because you guys want to self-insure the monument sign, which I think is a good idea, given insurance and all of that, that's basically going to cover your monument sign, which also means that next year you may not have to. So basically, we're going to put 15,000 into the reserves to cover for the monument sign. That'll bring you up to $65,000. The next item on the agenda was discussing investing that money into CDs. So then your reserves are basically going to grow at interest. But moving forward, this is going to basically will cover any reserve expenses that you have until that is exhausted. At which case, then you'll need to start. Then when you start pulling from your general reserve, you'll need to start reimbursing the general reserve. So if we have a major storm cleanup, like for example, the last one we had was $1,000. If you guys didn't have the overage in your account right now, I don't want to flash it on screen, but let me do something real quick. Let's do stop share. And let me go.
Well, that and the cleanup was at $1,000 was really cheap compared to other people.
Yes, and we weren't hit that bad. Like that area wasn't hit that bad. So okay, so your current operating balance as of the end of September, and I know the financials haven't gone out yet, is $37,000. Ooh. So yeah, so your current operating balance as of the end of September is 37,296. So uh, so
Question about the
you guys
sign.
have,
Oh, sorry.
so this 54 is no longer there. It's now 37. But again, you guys did also have that, because I think this happened afterward. You guys also had that big tree maintenance bill that you guys did. That also came out of that too, because we haven't been spending the reserves because we had the money in the operating account. So
Right.
that also came out of that too. So that's why I'm saying, like, it's, we'll have to keep an eye on it. But it's up to you guys. So
Yeah. So basically, we pay a little now, we pay a little next year, we pay a little the year after that, or we stay the same right now, and then we pay a whole lot in about 3 or 4 years. So I'll make the motion that we raise the annual dues $5 to $90 a year beginning January 1st, 2025.
I second that.
I oppose it, just to tell you. I mean, I'm pretty, what I've said, but I'm against it. Sorry.
Sorry, sir. It's a good opinion. All
After we're
right.
done with this vote, I have a question about the sign now.
yes, sir.
We still
Go
have
ahead.
to vote on the floor. Is discussion? Or is it the discussion about the motion, or is it discussion about the sign? Is that something separate?
No, we need to finish the vote for the
Yeah,
possible
Jeff,
increase
what's
in
your?
budget.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sure. My opinion is let's raise it to $5.
Okay.
I think we've got an audio issue. Okay. So that we had the motion in a second, right?
Yeah, the motion carries 3-1.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
David, what was your question about the sign?
I know we're self-insured on the sign, so if somebody hits the sign, do we not go after the other people, their insurance for property damage to fix the sign? I was just curious.
Oh yeah, so the in that instance we're basically we're thinking hit and run type of thing. If we obviously, yes, if we know who the person is, if we have evidence that they hit the sign, then we go after them. The main thing regarding the insurance was, so you guys had a $17,000 policy, I think it was. I talked to a vendor and I asked them basically based on what it's constructed out of, what would be the cost for total replacement. They quoted me about $12,000. Your annual premiums, if I recall correctly, was like $700 to $800 a year with a $1,000 deductible. So that would mean, I mean, really, now, of course, you can use the insurance. It doesn't have to be a hit and run for somebody to use it. A tree could fall on it and break it in half. Like that, anything is what basically covers it, with the exception of wind. The wind policy, which is basically if a hurricane comes and blows it away, that's a completely different thing with a completely different deductible, which is, and that one's going up, which is ridiculous because, you know, insurance companies really don't like paying out insurance for, yeah, they just don't like paying out insurance claims. So I don't even understand half of what they're doing with that. But basically, your wind deductible is a percentage based on something else, and it's really weird. But basically, it's so convoluted. It's basically gives them an excuse to deny the claim if they want to. Basically, the feeling that I got from it. And the monument sign is not that of an expensive thing. It's very unlikely that you would have to do total replacement. That's like the chances of that are very low. But yeah, so basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be putting the money into your reserves, potentially investing the reserves, and then um, potentially investing those reserves into CDs. So those reserves will be earning interest on top of, rather than paying an insurance company for a premium that you may never even use, you'll actually be paying yourself. That was kind of my thought pattern behind it, which is why I presented it to you guys a few months ago, and that was basically seemed to be the board's consensus was to go ahead and self-insure the sign. But basically that's what it would mean, is that if there's a damage to the sign that we cannot recover from whoever causes the damage, rather than filing a claim with the insurance company, paying the deductible or whatever, we'll just cover it ourselves. Especially if it's something small.
I agree with self-insured. I was just curious about subrogation. Do we have an avenue for subrogation if we know who does it? That's all I was asking.
I don't understand what you mean by that. You mean like going after somebody if they do it?
Right, a subrogation. Yeah, if somebody caused it, do we have the means to go after them to get them to fix it? That's what I meant. I understand about the self-insured thing. I can agree with that.
Okay, so you basically mean because an insurance company would hire an attorney to go after somebody, and so you would basically if we were to do that and it was, I guess, non-criminal, we'll put it that way. I mean, vandalism is still criminal, but I mean, we have problems with the sheriff when it comes to people dumping on River Ridge Boulevard. So if they don't feel it a priority and we have to go after them, then it would go to, yes, it would be on the association to go after them if we knew who they were and they were not willing to comply. Then the association would have to hire their attorney to go after that person.
Yeah, that's understood. I was just curious about that, if we had that means available.
I believe, well,
Is that a service our lawyer offers?
yeah, well, I don't, you can't pay the lawyer out of the reserves. So that would have to be, but again, if you file a claim with your insurance company, your premiums are going to go up. So, I mean, either way, it's going to get paid for one way or the other, and you can't pay insurance premiums out of your reserves either. So, if you decided to go after that person through your attorney or through the insurance company, either way, you're going to be paying. So the question just is, who are you paying?
So basically, why I'm asking all this is what I do for a living. I'm a risk manager, right? That's what I do for a full-time job, right? So what I'm trying to say is, you don't have to have an attorney to do subrogation if you have somebody who did something wrong. You just have to know what to do. You send a demand letter to whoever insurance company they have, if it's Allstate, Geico, Progressive. Here's our damages. This is demand. You're accepting liability, first of all. If they accept liability, it's pretty simple. They'll send you a check for whatever it is. If they don't accept liability, that's when you have to get lawyers involved and and fight them. But majority of the time, like Progressive and Geico and State Farm, if a driver hits the sign and causes major property damage, whatever their limits are, if it's 25,000, 10,000, whatever their limits are, right, on the person that hit the sign, they will pay us whatever their limits are. So if they have a $5,000 property damage limit, we'll just use that number. You're going to get a check for $5,000 and that's it. Right. So that's what I mean by subrogation and risk management and stuff like that. I was just curious.
Okay, so I guess to answer your question, that is not something I would be doing. So the question that would have to then be that whoever would do that, assuming that were to be done, would be done by somebody else, whether it's the attorney or whether if you as a board member were to be empowered by the rest of the board to go and do that. I mean, I don't see why a board member couldn't volunteer to write a few letters. I personally, I don't know enough about that in full disclosure. So, but I don't see why a board member couldn't do that if that's something that they wanted to volunteer to do.
Well, thank you. I was just curious, because curiosity, because I know if somebody hit the sign and they're, criminally they got charged with it for, reckless driving, careless driving, whatever, the liability is on that driver. So it's pretty easy to do subrogation to get your money back.
Right.
Long as they've been deemed at fault by FHB, sure, whatever kinds of a fault. So it's just curiosity because I know the signs are expensive, and if we don't have to pay for it and we make other people pay for it, we're like, tree falls on it's one thing, but if somebody literally hits it, we can have them pay for it instead of us.
Right. It's just that's outside of my particular um, realm of responsibilities. So I would need to pass that. If somebody was going to do that, I would have to pass that on to somebody, whether it's the association attorney, whether it's an insurance company, in which case, if you're self-insuring, it's not going to be an insurance company. So that's why my default would be to the association attorney. But of course, as I said, the board is, you put it another way, the board is empowered by the documents to create committees to act on behalf of the board. So in that situation, the board could create a supplication or supplication or whatever committee to basically pursue that. So I think it's something that could be done. I just don't know a whole lot about all that. But yes, obviously, I would think that in most of the cases that we would have, it's going to be they're either if it's hit and run, we're probably not going to know who it is, or if a tree falls on it, or if it happens by storm. I think those are probably more of the major. I should say major. I should say more likely scenarios to happen. I think because you guys don't have cameras out there on the sign, so they would have to stick around to do that. If it happens in the middle of the night and they keep driving, you're not going to have anything. So
Maybe something we cross that bridge once we get to it type deal. If it gets hit, now we know we have somebody on the
right.
board that could subrogate for us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I said. I'm not trying to put you out. I'm just saying like that is absolutely something that we can address at the time that were to happen, if it would happen. But I think, Dave, I think even you would agree that the likelihood of somebody hitting the sign and sticking around is probably the lowest, unless they're incapacitated when they hit the sign, and like their vehicle's incapacitated or they are physically incapacitated to the point where they can't leave. The chances of them sticking around is very low.
It actually happened in Rosewood. They hit this fence. They hit the wall in Decubulus and Town Center, and there's a big thing about it right now. Who's paying to have it fixed?
Hmm. Okay, if that's all we had about that, I know I mentioned it briefly in passing in the email. What was your thoughts about doing the CDs? You think that's, I'll leave that up to you guys to decide. My thought was take 50 grand, split it in two, and see what we can do. In most of the associations that we have, there's two ways we can do it, and I wasn't going to put you guys out. Some of our boards like to shop around and if to try to get better rates, and if you guys want to do that, you are welcome to do that. Otherwise, if you would like Park Lane to basically handle the CDs and the rollovers and all of that, then we do it through your bank, which is Truist. The last time we got a CD for one of our associations, which was like last month, they were offering 5 months at 4.4%. So if that is something that you guys are interested in, let me know, and we can look at doing that. Otherwise, we can move on.
What was the length of the, what was the term? What was the length, John? The CD?
It was 5 months at 4.4.
4.4
John,
actually was up a little while ago. 4.4 is actually a pretty good rate. I don't. Have we done certificates of deposit with River Ridge, with Villages at River Ridge before? We have not.
Nope.
All right. I'm kind of.
What kind of a return are we getting right currently?
You know what? Let me double check real quick. Because I think it might even be.
Do we?
Let me. Nope, that's not it.
Do we currently have a CD?
No. He asked what the current return is, so I'm looking at that. I'm looking that up right now.
Oh, I thought he said
it's in a money market account. Let's see. The interest that you earned last month was 43 cents. The interest rate is 0.01% on the money market account that your reserves are currently in.
Yeah, it's tough to beat a CD, especially at their rates right now.
So one of the reasons why I recommended two rather than one is because if you have to break one for whatever reason because of an emergency, you only lose the interest on that one and not on the other one. And again, you guys are going to have, as of January, $65,000 in your reserves. So you'll have 15 that'll be available and then two CDs and 25. So the 15 would get used first, and then before you would even need to touch the 25s. So again, but let me preface this by saying I am not a financial investor. I am simply presenting options to you and things for consideration. It is totally on you guys to make the decision as to what it is you want to do.
I'm in favor of the two CDs.
How about you, Don?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is Smitty. I was just trying to think through it, and I don't know if we need to tie up 50,000. I'm not sure how much we should tie up, but it would be better to make some money.
Yeah, Smitty, I'm kind of on board with you there. I mean, it could go either way. We could do two. I wouldn't care. I was thinking maybe if we did one, we could do one for 25. We could do one for 30. I mean, the option's open for us. John, I don't think that would hurt us. That way the other money's there in case we need it. But right now, if we can get a 4.4, or 4.4% return, I'd hate to have, 25 or 30 grand sitting there and making 43 cents over the course of a month or two. That's kind of ridiculous. And maybe, you know what, maybe this could be our answer for a couple of years from now. Maybe we could actually drop that annual rate again because we're making interest off this. So I'm open for two. That's fine. I'm open for one at 25 or 30 or whatever anybody else suggests.
From what John had said, these are 5 month terms. So in theory,
they have not been offering very long terms recently. They've been switching between 7 and 5. and the interest has been between 4 to 4.6%.
Okay, but if we break one, if we desperately need the money, we'll be no worse off than we are if we just left it in a regular savings and money market account.
Pretty much, as far as I
So,
understand it.
yep, so as far as we're not gonna lose anything by putting it into a CD. If we need the money, we'll lose some of the potential interest rate or interest money that we've made, but we'll be no worse off than today.
That's true.
How about two at 20 apiece?
John, are there minimums at that
No.
4.4?
Oh, yes, there are, but I think the minimum is like 10.
Okay. Well, since the interest rate is going to be the same, why don't you do one for 10 and one for 40? And that way, if we have to dip into this money, we would go after the $10,000 one first. We would lose less interest. And hopefully, we wouldn't have any more than one disaster within a 5-month period.
Sounds good to me. You want to make a motion on that?
Great
I
idea.
so move. Yep.
Second.
Okay.
So we're going to go with two, one at 10 and one at 40.
Correct.
Yes.
Second that motion.
All right.
Yep. All in favor?
I
I'm in favor.
All in favor. If there is any issue with that, what I'll do is tomorrow when I'm back in the office, I'll reach out to our contact at Truist. I'll confirm what the current rates are because they change all the time. So I'll confirm what the current term rates and terms are. I will also confirm a 10K minimum. I'm pretty sure that's going to be fine. I think that is their minimum, or it might be 5. I'm not 100%. But I will confirm that, and then if I'll let you guys know what the rates and terms are before we commit to it, obviously, and then you guys can make any final decision based on the rates and terms on what you want to do.
Okay, John, find out the potential penalties on these also.
I will ask. Yep,
Thank you.
put that in my notes.
Looking on the internet, and that's just real quick for Truist. Right now, 5-month CDs are at 4% with an opening deposit of $1,000. So, I mean, 4.4 would have been awesome, but even if we're getting 4%, that's still a hell of a lot more than we're getting right now. But yeah, I know.
Yeah, 4.4 was the rate that quoted us last month, as I said. So that changes, and in 5 months it could be 4.2%. So we'll just have to see what happens. But I will confirm all of that with you guys. I'll reach out to Truist tomorrow, and when they send me the information, I will confirm with you guys, and we'll get it booked.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Did we have? Okay, so now is I threw it up on the screen because I have it on the same one. So if there's any members who have any questions, if you want to throw it in the chat, you can do so. Am I still not? Why did this? It says I'm screen sharing, but I haven't. Oops, am I not live? There we go. Okay. So if there's any members who have any questions, you can throw it into the live chat, or if you want, the call-in number is on the screen. You're welcome to call in while we're waiting for any members to see if they want to join us. Does the board have any walk-on topics or anything that they would like to bring up and discuss in regards to the villages at River Ridge?
This is Don. I don't have any additional topics to bring up.
None from me.
Alrighty. There's only 4 people watching the stream, and one of them is me. So, let's see. So annual meeting, we don't have booked yet. We typically do that in the spring. We'll probably hold that at the library like we normally do.
Yep.
And I'll reach out to you guys probably end of February-ish regarding when we're going to start planning for that. So I don't see anything here. Is there anybody on the, let me check the participants. Okay, so if there is not anything else to bring up, then I think, Don, you can go ahead and adjourn the meeting when you're good and ready.
All right, everyone, appreciate your time. Board members, thank you for your time as always. John, thank you for what you do for us. So if there's no additional topics, questions, comments, I'm making the motion to adjourn the Villages of River Ridge fiscal year 2025 budget meeting.
I second
A
that.
second.
Second.
All right, all in favor, meeting is adjourned.
Right.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Everyone, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, gentlemen. You all have a good night. I'm going to go ahead and close out the meeting.
Okay, thanks, John.
Thank you.